Brilliant. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you very much. Let me share my screen. Now, we haven't met for, I think it's 5 weeks now. So there's a lot that's happened. And let me try to give a summary. I'm going to try and rush through all the various bits and pieces so that we can all get up to speed with what's been taking place.
Sure.
And if there's anything you want to jump in and, ask questions or, make points, then please do so. But otherwise, I'm just going to try and get through these because there's a lot of things that have taken place. Sorry, my stuff's everywhere as well because I haven't had much time to prepare for the meeting, but there's been so much that's happened. Okay, so let's start with just a quick one. From the last meeting when we were going through some of our failures, we were looking at something like this where we were comparing some of the failures that have started appearing. We had one with the ring tools formula. So these are just small issues. I just want to cover them first. And what actually happened is Javier did look into this formula and he figured out what was going on. So if we just jump into this a little bit, what it is a number of the platforms, when they're installing the service for this formula, where is it? What we have is it's preventing the service from running in a container. And Javier figured out that the best thing to do, rather than using some sort of ugly hack inside the SLS file, in the state file itself, where we're trying to ignore the state if it's Docker and all the rest of it, he said, just for our testing purposes, let's have a test state that we run for those platforms where the service has this present and just remove it. Just remove it from the service file. And then the test will actually run and the service will actually run and then the tests can be run as usual. And it worked out really, really well for this formula over here. So that fixed it over there. So it was only these platforms here, as you can see. So we're looking for the platforms that are systemd, and it was Fedora, Gentoo, and SUSE were the 3 platforms at that time, which were having the service file with this condition virtualization setting in the actual service file. So he put that through, which was really good. That then helped to fix the NTP formula where we had a similar problem. So again, the same thing again, just using this additional state from Kitchen, just running that additional state for the platform where there was an issue with the conditional virtualization. And again, just removing that at the time of running in Kitchen, and that allows us to test the service and the whole formula there. Since then, there's been another one where Arch Linux has also now started including that in their service file. So doing the same thing, just adding that to the list over there.
And what version is it of Arch are you using?
We're using the very latest. So when we're building with the image builder, so if I just quickly go over there to the image builder, since this is pulling every week and building a new pre-salted image. So let's have a look at our pipelines. So we've got a cron job set in the image builder. So every week, if you can see the scheduled ones over here, it will rerun on the latest available Docker container.
Okay.
Whatever's there. So whichever one's there at the moment in Docker Hub.
Yeah.
Let's have a quick look what we have for Arch Linux. So whatever they've released latest over here, that will be used for the newest pre-salted image that we provide every week. So I'm not sure how often they update. Yeah, they're pushing. It looks like daily, and we're pulling latest over there. So yeah, so it will build with the latest platform for each of our platforms. So that way we're getting the latest testing across all of our formulas, especially since most of our testing is on the master branch of Salt as well. So anything we're uncovering is on the bleeding edge at all times of platforms as well as Salt as well.
Yep, cool.
Yep. So this got, like I said, picked up, and because Javier had provided that nice little fix there, we was able to add in just one more little bit there for Arch, and that fixed that formula as well.
Cool.
So that was the ring tools thing. That was a small thing from there. Let's have a look at, so another thing that happened, it seems so long ago, because it was right near the beginning, is Javier, again, last time was asking, can we start providing pre-salted images for Rocky Linux? He was asking for at the time. And at the time in the last meeting, we sort of said maybe, maybe a lot later on, but Javier knows what I'm like. He knows that I'll go looking and stuff when I'm messing around with all this. And what it was is we found that I knew Alma Linux was already providing Docker images that were, available for pulling and stuff, but Rocky wasn't when I checked a few months back.
Yeah, but right now I think it's there, right? So
yeah, it's there now. So since it was made available, when we tried it out with our formulas, and since it's so similar to CentOS 8, we just use the same suites, the same test suites per formula as if it's CentOS 8. And the good news was all of these passed pretty easily. There was very little that had to be done for both of them. So we've also got those in our image builder as well. So where am I looking? So yeah, over here, we was able to add, it was only Git based though, because as I mentioned, and Kirill will know, when I was mentioning in the Salt Bootstrap, at the moment, the two new platforms haven't been actually officially supported in one of the latest releases of Salt. So 3003.1 doesn't recognize these two platforms yet, but the master branch does.
Put it in the grain. So I think the grains were merged into the master, but it's
yeah. So that will probably come out in the next release, which is that 3004 that's coming next?
Exactly. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Is there going to be a 0.2?
Yes, I think the next one will be .2. Yeah.
All right, because I noticed that the master branch is now reporting as 3004.
I have to check that.
I can show you because we have tests here in our image builder where we test for the version when we build each image, and we had to upgrade this for all the masters. Test start version, that's the one. So if you can ignore the crazy regex there, you'll see, where is it?
Yeah, this line.
It's there somewhere. I can't see it myself, even though I'm the one who wrote it just recently. I didn't do it like that. I did it as a regex, didn't I? Master format. So yeah. Oh no, I've just done it for all of them now. So that's not where you're going to see it. A best place, because what it was is, because some were 3003, some were 3004. A better place to look at it will be here. We also, when we build each pre-salted image, we export a text file showing all the packages that are installed on that pre-salted image. Because what we've had is, when there have been changes over the time, like say Tumbleweed, for example, stopped supporting us, or they stopped including a certain package, and our formula started failing, and we didn't know what happened. But now having these lists over here that we can see what happens to a pre-salted image over time, we can now see exactly what's on these pre-salted images. So if I search for master here,
yeah,
and let me see, let's get another couple. We will see that they are all reporting as 3004 now. So I don't know what's going to happen for 3003.2.
Is it from Bootstrap, right? So
this is from the Bootstrap. This is this is the Git-based master build, and it's already 3004 there. So if there is going to be a 3003.2, I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen here, because normally that doesn't go up until the next major is ready to go.
Right, I'll check this.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, because like I said, it's all the masters. From what I've checked, all the masters are that. What's the Tiamat ones? The Tiamat ones are still 3003, I think. Yeah, they're still 3003. Right, yeah. Nearly all of them. Yeah, they're still 3003, but the masters are 3004. So if there's going to be a 3003.2, there may be a bit of an issue there with the master branch not being in sync.
Yeah, good.
All right, so that's the Alma Linux and Rocky Linux. It was really good. They match almost exactly like CentOS 8. Very little to be done. There was a little change that had to be made to Kitchen Docker. We pushed a little PR to them. Let's see, it's not much. It's a tiny little thing. Again, this was Javier was the one who pointed out that it's a very simple little fix. So all that had to be done to the Kitchen Docker was just add the two of them in. And then it was supporting it after that. So that's all that needed to be done. And then all the tests that we normally have written were working fine. Oh yeah, and for Daniel as well, a little thing is I had to also make a little change, and Daniel can comment on this, I think, because he's the one who set this up in the first place. In our system RB that we're running, so we have a little library here that Daniel put together that I've been fiddling with afterwards sometimes. but it was just over here. Where is it?
Okay.
I think it was just this one little change here. Was there something else? Let's see, because I just went to get Daniel's input if there was something that he saw. Yeah, it's just that. Oh no, it's just that. So we just added Rocky there so that Rocky's being seen as Rocky Linux from our testing perspective. So we use this library from our test to get easier when we're selecting between various platforms, we want to work out which platform's doing which, doing what. Then we just have our little library here that we can test with and stuff. So yeah, any issues there, Daniel, that you can see? Are you available, Daniel?
Yes, I'm here. No issue for me.
Yeah, so it's just pretty straightforward. We're seeing those as Amazon Linux, Oracle Linux, and Rocky Linux. Yeah,
Yeah.
three of those platforms when we're doing our testing. So that's those changes. The other one is in the last 5 weeks, Debian 11. The Bootstrap's been supporting this for a while, and I was waiting until there was an 11 tag over here, but that didn't come out as of yet. Like you see here, the Buster has a 10 tag, and you go down and you'll see it because our image builder, usually works on the numbering rather than the naming of the actual the version. But what we did is, because there were now PRs coming in, so there was a PR in the Postgres formula that was coming in for Debian 11 support. Let's see, I won't find it like that. Let's just go here. And there was no way to test it without actually having a pre-salted image available. Now, what's interesting with Debian 11, let me just show you this first. So that was the actual PR. And there was no way, like I said, when it came in at first, there was no way of actually testing whether this was working. So Postgres installing on Bullseye, the repo was available. So some of the formulas that we're running, the upstream repo is already available for Bullseye, and a number of them is not. And I'll talk about the not ones in a minute. So this PR came in, no way of testing it, decided to have a look. Can we make a pre-salted image? And that was possible because the Bootstrap's already supporting it, which is good.
Yep.
So we pushed out our Debian 11. So we're calling them Debian 11 from our side, even though we're actually building off Bullseye.
Yep.
Yeah. When that changes, we'll.
Bullseye 13, right? So is it correct?
Sorry, what's that?
Bullseye was a code name. Is it like version 13?
It's 11. It's 11.
11. Okay, it's 11. Buster. Yeah. Okay. Right.
Buster's 10 and Bullseye is 11, but we're just waiting for that tag to be updated here. Actually, it's being released in 4 days' time. So we're looking at 31st of July. This will probably be updated very soon because it's not been officially released yet, but it is pretty much there. So like I said, Bullseye images are out. Now, had a situation where when we started testing the Bullseye image across all of our formulas, so to push it out there everywhere, found a number of formulas obviously not working because upstream repos aren't available and all the rest of it. So taking something that we do from the image builder here as well. So if I just quickly go to the files, just give me a second, GitLab. And we're looking for allow failure. Right, this is, right, there we go. Right, this is all a lot to look at, but I mean, we have a template here. So this is our main template for building our pre-salted images. And this one is failure forbidden, meaning these have to always succeed. But using all these little YAML node anchors and stuff, you can simply say, this build template is everything above, but just allow failure. So for example, we have some platforms where that Gentoo, for example, so over here, where we want to allow failures with these because they're not always building successfully because of time limits and stuff. Sometimes they hit the 60-minute limit and they don't build properly or some other minor issue. So it's just a simple little change to the template here where you have the main template above and you can just extend that template by simply allowing failure. So taking the same idea with the Debian 11 in our formulas is just to, for the formulas where there's not an upstream repo available. So Daniel pointed out in Zulip to me, he said, the varnish formula. So for example, if we look at the varnish formula over here, it doesn't have an upstream repo for where do I want to go to? Do I want to go to the GitLab? Yeah, let's go to the GitLab. That's fine. So here, the Debian 11 over here is actually failing because there's no upstream repo. It doesn't find anything.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
So instead of not introducing Debian 11, we're now just modifying the GitLab CI a little bit to allow Debian 11 to still run with allowing failures, because at some point, we don't know when, rather than keep checking back to see when is the upstream repo going to be made available, we just allow it to run with failure, and then hopefully at some point soon, that will start working, because it's expected to work soon. You know, if we just go over here, you can't look at it like this, but you can look at it like this, I believe. Right.
Yeah.
You'll see that they don't have, they've got busters, they've got buster available and everything else. And at some point soon, you'd expect they're going to start building packages for Bullseye. And as soon as they start doing that, this job over here should start passing. That's the idea. So we've got Debian 11 running out there across as many formulas as possible. And where it's not working at the moment, we've just got the allow failure set in our GitLab CI, so that it, if I can show you the commit, I don't know if the commit will show it though. Let's go direct to the varnish formula. Let's go to here, just to show you the little block that's added and how it actually looks in the GitLab CI that we've got. So you'll see this in a few formulas I'm saying. It's just this. So it has our normal template that we use to test our formulas. And all we've got is in those formulas where there's a slight problem, we're just allowing failure. And you'll see down here, the Debian 11, it extends the failure permitted template, and the rest of them are still using test instance where they're expected to pass. Is that clear enough?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
just want to get Debian 11 testing out there. And when these start passing, because the repos are available, we'll just change them back to test instance again. So we won't allow them to fail anymore. And that way we keep our testing as wholesome as possible.
Yep.
So that's the Debian 11 stuff. I think that's most of it. Just give me a minute here. I've just got some notes here. I just want to just make sure I'm covering. Oh yeah, here's one for David. You available? David?
I am, yeah.
Excellent. Part of all this pushing out Debian 11 and all the rest of it, we took that RST lint thing that you fixed for us. I'm just going to pull it up if I can, and push that out to all the formulas. Now, what happened in that process, if I can open this, where is it? Let's try this one. I think it's this one over here. Or was it the 3001? Maybe the 3001. No, it's not this one. It's the 3001. Yep. So what happened with this is we've made our restructured text linting a lot more strict than it was before. And that's been done with, let's see. Oh, that's not gonna. Let's see, report level. Oh, was it set here? No. What was the file it was setting? Okay, nevertheless, this was pushed out to all the formulas. And then what started happening is our template formula has, the conversion job. Let me see, I've got it here open somewhere. Oh, this is it here, got it open. So because we've got a more stricter testing taking place now.
Yeah, okay, I can see what you're getting at. Yeah.
When it actually converts the formula to a new name, the title, the underlines don't get changed. And they're not maybe long enough, especially if you use a longer name, or maybe they're too short. So now we've got two options here. Either we can try to make the conversion script a bit cleverer and actually change the underline sizes as well, which might be a little bit tricky, or we could have a workaround of just making the linting less strict when we actually run the conversion script. What do you think? Which one do you think is the better option to pick?
Well, without having looked into it, I mean, really, the conversion script should do things properly. So, yeah, I mean, I can't promise
Yeah.
that something will work, but I mean, at least we should try making the script do things properly.
Yeah. So just to make that a bit clearer, what happens here is if we take line 80, for example, oh, it's not going to be line 80 here, though, is it? Basically, some of these headings, oh, it'll be these ones here, for example. So what will happen, so just explaining for everyone else's benefit,
All right.
that might be changed to, let's say the new formula is called use this formula, and that's the name of the main state. Now this heading here is no longer long enough, and that will now trigger a lint error because we're using stricter linting, which is working across everywhere else. So all the rest of our formulas, all the rest of our RST files are fine, but our conversion now needs to work out what to do about this. So maybe just opening this up to others. Should we be clever and try and figure out a way to get this the right size? Or do we just reduce the linting, the strictness of the linting for now, so that what do others think? What should be the way to approach that?
Well, I'll just add again. I mean, when you say we'll make the linting less strict, well, that kind of affects every formula. So yeah, my personal view is the conversion should do it properly. And
oh yeah, of course, that's ideal for sure.
And so yeah,
I mean, I guess it would just be comparing the length of the new name with template and figuring out how to add those number of characters underneath. Yeah, but this wouldn't affect our current formulas because our current formulas are being used on the strictest linting. So you wouldn't change anywhere else. But I'm saying is part of the script that you've got here to do this, maybe there we could change because maybe people who are using our formula, maybe they don't need the linting that strict in the first place. So it only affect new formulas or people who are using the template, not our formulas itself, because they're still using the stricter version of linting. Do you get it? So we could just...
You're saying to reduce the linting on newly produced formulas. Is that what you're saying? Or
I'm saying whoever's using this formula, when they hit that, when they're using your script, they use this template button and the script, that what we do is we leave this like this. Not saying this is ideal, this is just a workaround, but I'm saying is we allow that to be left like that, and we reduce the linting levels to something a bit more, what's the word, opposite to strict, a bit more allowable. So
lax, a
bit more lax, so that it doesn't give them linting errors straight away. And that they can carry on using the formulas without a problem. And if they want to bring them back into the organization, we can still reestablish the stricter linting and make sure those things are fixed.
Yeah,
we could do it that way.
Okay.
Whichever one's quicker.
Well, let me I haven't looked at that script in a while, so let me have a look at it, because I mean this point has been brought up before, I believe, and I kind of said, oh, I might look at that, but let me have a look at it, because if we can make it do things properly in the first place, then that saves a whole lot of trouble. Definitely.
I mean, if you're sorry.
Yes, if changing the script is too much hard, one thing could be to keep the strict linting except for the convert tests. So most of people, when I use the template formula for a new formula, I change nearly everything in the README, because I need to add the subcomponent, etc. need to be completely removed, etc., etc. So I think that we could keep the strict linting, and if changing the script is not possible, we could only lax the check only for the convert job.
Right, just for this job over here, you mean?
Yeah, so people will be forced to have proper headlines.
Yeah.
When they push their own formula.
So let me have a little.
And Imran, what was the reason basically behind the strict linting?
Basically, we were having problems like that where there was some. Okay, So what we're doing is we've got our new documentation site coming through. Yeah. And what that's actually doing is, I don't know if you've seen it. What am I looking for? Netlify. So this is automatically taking these restructured text files. So if we go to any particular formula, doesn't matter which one, these files here are actually, these are actually RST files in our main formulas at the moment, right? If those headings aren't done correctly, then these headings here don't come out properly. So when there's, if those headings aren't set properly, it won't find heading 4.1. It'll make it a heading 5 maybe, or heading 4.1.1. You know, it doesn't see the headings properly. So these headings need to be correct.
Okay.
You see, they should be correct anyway. And generally, we've been doing that when we've had PRs coming in over the years. We've been making sure that the headings are, as much as we can, we've been making sure they're correct. Now that we have the linters, we can do that anyway. Good practice anyway. However, now with this, where we're converting it automatically to a new place where we need to be able to have, and that conversion is taking place every time there's a new release that's made automatically. When we have a new commit put through and a new release is made, this will be updated automatically over here. But if the headings are wrong, then this won't be created properly.
Okay, makes sense.
So that's the main real rationale behind it, of keeping it right. But where it's someone using it for their own purposes, I'm saying is we could just make it more lax for their purposes, because they're not contributing back necessarily to our organization. They're just using the formula for themselves. Maybe they don't need it that strict.
Okay.
But so if we can fix it, that's great. Or if we can just change this job over here so that it doesn't complain. I'm just thinking how we'd do that. I'm just having a quick little scratch of my head here and thinking, where would we control that? That would be obviously in GitLab CI. I'm just trying to get my head around how. I guess we could over here. Let's see. So where the test job is. So this is test formula, right? So test conversion, which is this over here. So we're saying somewhere over here, we can put in, so it'd be over here. It'll be at the script level where we kind of control the level of linting. No, it won't be here. It'll be at the pre-commit level, won't it?
Yeah.
So what we'd have to do is somewhere over here is, where is that linting taking place? David, my brain's not working. Can you remember where it is? Which specific part?
Let me. Okay, so you got install hooks.
Right, install the hooks. Yeah.
So in the formula itself, it makes some commits.
Right.
It makes at least one commit.
Right. The commit
it's
triggers the
checked
pre-commit.
during that.
Right.
It's during the run of the formula.
Right. It's during that stage over there.
Yeah, the script.
So if we could maybe find a way of passing something through to that, where it then does allow it to run. Hopefully at the command line, it runs.
You know what's possible, Imran, is pre-commit has an environment variable for skipping the test, or maybe you don't, but you don't want to skip the test. You want to.
What Daniel's saying? Daniel's saying is we can skip them for this particular run from our side, can't we? Because we don't really mind. As long as the rest of the conversion is working, we don't mind if the restructured text lint isn't working.
Yeah.
As a workaround, not
yeah, as a workaround. So that is possible. There's an environment variable skip equals, and you would give the name of the hook, pre-commit hook. So that's completely possible.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think that might be the quickest and easiest solution for now, so that we don't have a failing job at the moment. And then if we can get around to working out this ideal method of fixing the headings, that will be even better. But at least this for now would be great.
Okay, well, if you want something quick, that would be it.
Yeah, if you know what to put through, I'd really appreciate it. I mean, if you can figure it out and just put that into that line or wherever it goes, that'd be great, and we can get that merged in pretty quickly. Because at the moment, like I said, it's failing. So it'd be good to have passing and stuff. That'd be good. Nice.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea. Thank you, Daniel. I think that's a good way of looking at it, rather than modifying the linting and making it less strict. I think we should keep it strict so that when they do start running pre-commit at their own end, they know now to fix those things. Great. So that's the RST lint issue as well that we've done. Okay, here was a different issue. Here's another issue. It's something I pushed through. No one commented. I think that means everyone agrees. Actually, it came from looking at the bootstrap. A couple of ideas from looking at the bootstrap itself, actually, where I noticed the discrepancy between what the bootstrap was doing in its kitchen testing and what we were doing. And there was a couple of things. So one was, the first one was the use of run command over here. And we were using a run command of only lib systemd. And so when I looked at this, I was like, hold on a second, have we got it wrong? Who's got it wrong here? And it turns out we had it wrong as an organization where most of the platforms are actually using, systemd under the user folder directory. So just shuffled that around from in our formulas so that now they're using that instead. And the exceptions are using, so it's only the Ubuntus and the Debians that are using, and I think Gentoo as well, that are using libsystemd. So just switch those around. Is that clear enough? You understand what I mean there?
Sure.
Yeah. So just point these things out from over here as I look at kitchen in this side. So we originally had it the other way around over here, but switch those around, and now you'll see that the run command override is actually now under the Debians and Ubuntus instead, not under all the rest of the platforms as we had before. Yeah, that was one little change. A bigger change was the ordering of these top level keys. So having driver and provisioner before platforms, because what we had originally beforehand is we had driver and then platforms and then the provisioner. Now, that wasn't really looking like much of a problem for us, because actually we're never overriding the provisioner in our Linux testing. You'll never ever see it being overridden. But a good example is over here, is there are times when you've got something set up in the provisioner like the init environment, and you will be overriding it in the platforms. And you want to sort of see it in that order where you want to see the general settings at the top. So these are the base settings, and then the specific settings underneath them, so you know what you're overriding. Because if you have it the other way around, you're trying to figure out, wait a second, init environment, what's the original setting of it? And you're looking up, and actually it's down, it's below the way we had it around. You get the idea? So just change across all the formulas to have the provisioner before the platforms. Did you notice that change, guys? Did you see that I did that? I did mention it in, I mentioned it in Slack. Okay, I mentioned it in Slack, but if you do look now, you will notice that that has been moved around. It's only a minor change. It makes no difference otherwise. But if you do look, please, let's have in that order, driver, provisioner, and then platforms, so that the general settings are at the top and the more specific settings can be done underneath. Makes sense? Or any controversy there that I've set off?
No.
Yeah, okay, so that's a couple of changes again, just benefiting by looking at some other kitchen.yamls out there, like the Bootstrap. Fixed a couple of things there. And okay, now we're getting on to some of the gem issues that there were. Oh, no, let's do the share profile first. That was a nice one. So we go again to let's go to the Postgres formula. Now, after Daniel provided us with the share library that we had, so this share over here, we've got in all formulas now, because we wanted to use this library and have it accessible everywhere. So that's been pushed out to all of our formulas. By having the share library, there's an additional benefit now that I've just noticed is I was adding a new suite to the Postgres formula, and there were a couple of the files that were identical in both suites. And the idea is, well, we shouldn't be having this duplication. There should be a better way of having it where both suites use a common set of controls. And by having that share suite now, we can do that. We can put the common controls under the share suite and then access them from, so there's the two common controls over there. And if we go to one of the suites now, either one, you can just include so I'm using a common name of share.rb because you just include it in one place. You don't necessarily have to have a file per include. You just include them in one place. And if you want to include all of the controls from the share suite, you can simply just have this, include controls from share. I've done it like this for the time being, because I think while we're trying to get familiar with this or discuss it, it may be that that we want to understand exactly which controls we're pulling in and which ones we're maybe specifically providing. So it's still providing here in the default suite, it's still providing a services RB, which is specific to that test suite, to that suite, and the other one has its own services RB. You get the idea, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen that there's a few other formulas that can benefit from this, where instead of having a lot of duplication of our tests in multiple suites, so I think the SALT formula, for example, is really messy. There's a lot of duplication in the there's about 6 suites there, and a lot of them are doing the same thing. We can use this share profile that we now have available and stick them in there instead. I think that's a cleaner way to do things. Anyone else got suggestions about how to work with these shared controls? Is that fair enough then? A good idea to go ahead and do that sort of thing across formulas when we see the duplication?
Yes.
Yeah, I found lots of controls of different profiles, for example, in the Java formula. I think that's one that could be could have an interest in using shared controls.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the
Yes.
loads. Oh wow, yes, and I'm sure there's lots of duplication amongst those. And now having
some of the tests only look up for the good version of the binaries or thing like that. But
actually, can we put a map data in there as well? I didn't think about that.
Yes, I think yes, map data could be. Oh no, map data can't for the Java, for example, because oh yes, no,
it should be able to, because I can't see a reason why it can't. That's all common.
Yeah.
So we might even be able to put our map data ones in there as well, which will also save a lot of duplication. And then like, so you're saying here there's a lot of duplication, or some of it can be pulled out perhaps.
But in that case, we will have files for every profile. Today we only have for the default, right?
No, we have files for every profile anyway. That's needed anyway, because the pillar might be different, and usually the pillar is different between the profiles. So that's fine. We need a separate files, but the actual the controls files themselves, they could be centralized. Make it dry, have it all in one place under the share profile, because we have it now everywhere. We may as well take advantage of it. And that's that's a good development, I think, if we can do that. So if you do see opportunities where either new tests you're writing or existing tests which can be dried out a bit, consider putting them in share. And the only example we've got right now is the Postgres formula, but we can start pushing this out to some other formulas as well to see what benefits we can get from that. So right. Let's go on to a bit more. Okay, there was an issue with the gem files. I think I had it open already. No, okay, let me just open it here. Where do I begin? Right. What we had is when Travis was still working and we were able to run weekly tests there, every week when we ran the weekly tests, we were updating the gems across all of our formulas as well, keeping them up to date. And then I think it was, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, pardon me, we had a problem where across many of our formulas, if I can see maybe I'll see it here instead. So it was dependencies. What was it called? So let's see, look at done perhaps. Yeah. Across so many formulas, we started having a problem because this particular gem needed updated for security purposes, and because Travis had failed us and stopped updating our gems and our gem file lock and all the rest of it, these issues start coming across all of our repos all at the same time. Now the reason, as well as Travis failing us, another reason why we was having trouble with the update of the gem file or the gem file lock specifically was because, let's see if I can pull it out here. I think it's this pull. Right, yes, or this one over here. And I was talking to some of the guys about this in Slack. What happened is something got introduced in Kitchen Inspec between these two versions of the gem. And what it turned out is it was actually this one line here. I won't waste too much time discussing it. Let's see. So the default configuration now was setting a value called backend cache that I hadn't heard about before, and it was setting it to true. Now, as a cache works, it basically takes a snapshot of how the state of the thing that you're about to test is right now, and it does the tests on that, because obviously it saves time. If you don't keep having to look back at the underlying system, you're just using the cache instead. Now, a downside of that cache being set to true and using the cache is where we had a couple of formulas where they're using retries, where they're retrying the tests, over a period of time, waiting, for example, for a service to start. The backend cache was preventing those changes from being seen. So it took a long time just to dig in to figure out what was going on. And a good example was, I think it was the Open VPN formula. Is that right, David? It was Open VPN?
It is, yeah.
Where we have some retries. So if we dig into this over here, and services, I think.
Yes.
So over here, we have a test over here that is retried 60 times every second. So it waits for a second and does it 60 times, waiting effectively for the whole service to be started up and the log file to include, the sequence complete. Now, when the backend cache is enabled, you're never going to see that. And so suddenly these formulas were no longer passing, and it was like, what's changed? What's happened? There's a problem because you have to dig in to figure out what's going on. But if you look up here, there's a change you can set to the verifier where you can set the backend to false. And that was all that was needed. A lot of digging around just to figure this out, that you needed to be able to set that. So in these formulas over here, which involve retrying states, within inspec, the idea is to make sure that you use, where is it? You use backend cache. So you'll see it here in some of these formulas now. This section here, this is added to make sure you're not using a cache, so that the retrying will actually pick up changes in the underlying platform as it's being started up. Yeah. So this one was a simple fix eventually, and we was able to update that gem as well, because that's one of our main gems. Kitchen inspec is one of the main ones we pull from our gem file itself. So we couldn't upgrade that because we weren't getting these formulas working, and it was just a matter of finding this new option, which you had to look for. That was that. But now we've got another one, which I wanted to query, get some ideas about, and that is, let's go to the gem file for a second. We're pinning one of our gems, and this is now preventing. So the only one we're actually pinning now, the rest of them are, essentially no lower than. We're getting the latest version of all these gems, and that's fine. All the rest of them. But one we're pinning is the actual inspect gem itself, and we're pinning to a particular version, which is now quite old. It's over a year old. So if I go to Ruby gems, okay, and we go to inspec, and we look at the versions, you see we're stuck back over here. I can't even highlight for some reason. My computer slowed right down. Yeah, we're stuck back to August the 27th. And the reason why, when you look at the difference between these two over here, now this is a bit trickier, so you'll have to just give me a moment, because I did have it somewhere. Just have to find where the actual, just give me a minute. So I need to get to, right. And it is 5054. Oh, great. It's done it all wrong. Ugh. Let's try that again. Still useless. I'll have to search in. Gonna have to get to inspec itself, aren't I? Oh gosh. Should be able to just put it in here and it will figure it out itself. Right. Yeah. What's happened is inspec made a change which has affected us who are coming in from kitchen inspec. It doesn't, so if you're using inspec itself, there's ways of getting around this. But if we're using kitchen inspec only, there's no way to turn this off. So if I actually get to the code over here for a second, and I want to ask a question here about this, so just bear with me a second. So for example, if you're calling it from the command line, you can use no diff if you don't want to see the diff, and you can use, what I really need to do is show you what the difference is. But okay, over here, this over here, the only way to, okay, right here. So what happens is, if the diff is configured, if in the configuration it's allowing diff, which is supposedly the default, then it will not run this, it will return, it will not run this block over here, and it will not suppress the diff. If, on the other hand, what's happening when we're using kitchen inspec is it's not even providing a configuration value for the diff. It's actually turning out as nil. It's nothing. So if you add a little, and I have tried it, if you add a check for nil for diff, then again, it will not run this suppressing of diff. And what this is actually doing is, when we've got our diffs that are taking place and we're getting the nice block of diff, I think I'll have to show you one. There's no way of actually, this isn't, I did think I put it in Slack though. Oh dear. I put it in Slack somewhere where I showed you, where I was showing the difference between the two. Just thinking what the quickest way to do this is. I'll have to start something up. That's the only way. Let's get something running, anything. Let's see what I've got here. Have I got a diff running in ring tools formula? Just give me a second. I want to figure out if I can do this. Let's see what tests we have here. Not that one. Okay, yeah, that's good enough. That should handle it, what I'm looking for. So if I do anything there, and I go back over here, and I go, I believe I've still got one open there, so it should do this pretty quickly. So what I'm basically saying is, because we have no way that I can find so far of providing this configuration option through kitchen inspec, because kitchen inspec doesn't actually have a way of passing that value through that I can see so far. There's not a one-to-one correlation between what kitchen inspec provides and what inspec itself can have in its configuration file. It has to be patched into kitchen inspec for us to be able to provide it, or to be able to pass that value through. And because we can't, this one single line is making sure that we're not getting a full diff when we're actually having a problem. So over here, hopefully in a second, right, come on, this should mess up. Right there, this diff over here, this block, which is showing us a wider diff so we can see where the issue is. This isn't the best example. There would be a much nicer example if we had, but do you know what I'm talking about? This over here ends up getting suppressed. And all we end up seeing is this block here at the top only.
Can't we add something to kitchen inspec? Can't we make a patch or something?
Right. I came from different angles here, and it's kitchen. Okay, patching kitchen inspec would be quite difficult from what I can see. You'd have to know how to provide a runtime config itself, because they don't even have an option for that yet in kitchen inspec that I can see. I have to really chase this up with them maybe and ask a bit more from them, but I can't see anything in kitchen inspec that allows you to provide those values, let alone a specific value for diff. Now, what I've got as a suggestion is since we only simply need to actually just comment out this line over here, if we just have just that one little change, it doesn't suppress it with the newest version of the gem. Are you with me? Yeah. Just commenting out that one line, because we don't want the diff suppressed, but we do want to use the newest gem.
Yeah. So are you saying like fork inspec then?
Right. What I'm suggesting is, what I'm suggesting is this, and Javier doesn't like the idea, and that's fine. I should mention that he doesn't like the idea. But I don't know. I don't think it's that complicated. I think it's actually very simple until we get this fixed upstream somehow. So I've got to get to GitLab, and I've got to get to, I think it's over here. So we're already forking Kitchen Docker. And the reason for that is we've got a separate branch. So our master branch here in Kitchen Docker, because we're using the mirroring, we're always getting the latest version of whatever changes upstream into GitLab. Yeah. And then we're using the SSF branch, which is making a tiny change in order to speed up our testing, because we've already got certain bits in our pre-salted images. So there's no need to rerun those steps again, which actually slows down the testing quite considerably. We can just go straight into the testing without having to install bits and pieces. And our SSF branch allows us to do that. So the master's always being updated here as soon as this is updated upstream. And we've just got one extra commit that is on top in our SSF branch, which then allows us to run it fast. So we're not actually sitting there, working with the whole of inspec. We're just, or the whole of this Kitchen Docker repo. We're just making sure that our one commit is on top and using that as our gem. Yeah. So similarly, you could do the same thing with inspec itself as a gem. The inspec repo, you mirror it into GitLab, and you simply have that one tiny little commit to comment out this line. And then you can have the very latest inspec gem. And then again, all the other things that are being held back. I don't know which other gems are being held back because we're using that version of inspec. Those can be released in our gem file lock as well, and we can have a much later version of everything. I don't know if that's very, very clear, but the idea is have a workaround in the meantime by mirroring inspec over here and pointing to that instead, the latest version of inspec, with this one thing commented out. Or if there's a problem with that, let's talk about it. It's just this one line.
Well, obviously it's kind of not ideal, but if that's the easiest way, then yeah, I mean, it's better to have a newer gem than to be stuck on some old version. I agree with that.
Yeah, it's a very old version now as well. We're still all the way back over here. I mean, writing the issues and explaining everything is going to take some time, and trying to get the right people to comment. Because I've already made a comment on a couple of the issues that we've had, and I've had no response. So it's like we could wait another few months while we, write the issues and do this and do that. I was saying in the meantime, we can just run our little mirror over here in GitLab, which is constantly being updated from the latest version anyway. Just merge those changes in because it's a simple commenting out. It's a nothing commit. And then we've always got the latest version of inspec as well in our formulas. And we're not holding back, on gems that we could be updating.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we get a comment or feedback finally from them, we can then do the right thing, where when we can actually ignore this, and put through the right, values in our kitchen YAML or wherever they want us to put it, so that we can actually have this fixed. Because the kitchen inspec, like I said, if you look into it, I think there's a lot of values that are in real inspec that aren't available via kitchen inspec as of yet. They need to be patched into kitchen inspec so that you have that correlation between the configuration files. Because inspec has its own configuration file. I tried to use that as well, but it doesn't seem to pick it up when we use it through kitchen inspec. I think you have to be using real inspec for that to be picked up.
What's Javier's objection to this, considering we do it elsewhere?
Simply that we shouldn't really be forking these. I mean, this one was fairly clear because, that's a very specific need from our formulas because of our pre-salted images. And it's only a small repo anyway. It's nothing major. But inspec is obviously now, it's a significant gem, and keeping that, keeping it up to date and, all the rest of it. Although I don't think we didn't speak about it in great detail. So I don't think he understood, or not he understood. I don't think I made clear how simple it will actually be. From what I can see, the mirroring will take place and we'll always have the latest version. And all we have to do is just,
When you say this mirroring, there's still a manual step there, isn't there? Because you've got like a different branch. Yeah, I know it's. Am I right with that? Yeah, there's going to be a manual step.
This one manual step here, which is merge branch upstream into SSF, which is a nothing. It's literally a nothing because I'm doing nothing. I'm just merging the branch and then I'm pushing that in. So it's a nothing step. There's nothing to be, as in it doesn't do anything.
It's basically like rebasing that
No,
branch.
I'm not even rebasing it. I'm not even rebasing it because I thought because people might be tracking this branch and I don't want to force them to have to, pull something that's been rebased. I'm just merging it in so that people can keep following that branch if they're doing that themselves.
Okay.
So it's literally hit a button and it's merged in. And in the meantime, we've still got a later gem than the one we're currently using, which is 4.22, some old version of a gem that we're only holding back because it's one reason, because it is diff that's been suppressed, which is quite significant for our uses because we rely on that diff a lot. This wasn't the best example, but there's some examples where it's really, the map data ones where you have a difference there. That diff, when we lose that, it's impossible to work with. Whereas when we have the diff available here, you can actually see it and make the changes you need to see, make the changes you need to make. So if there's no real objections to that, I might at least just do that for now. And then hopefully between us, we can get through to the kitchen people and, get that fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah, just do that.
From my point of view, go for it.
Yeah, if there's a problem, it's so easy to switch back. If there really is an issue with it, we can go back to 4.22 and do what we have to do. Meaning all of this is quite easy to control from the SSF afterwards. So if there really is an issue, we can go back. One last issue, if I can quickly squeeze it in. Another thing we came up with, and it's going to cause us trouble real soon, is this ginger issue that we were talking about last time. This isn't the place I wanted to go to. We have that issue with the newest version of Ginger that's causing problems with all of our formulas. It's beginning to affect more and more. It's beginning to affect more and more of our platforms now. So let's see if I've got that here. Ginger 2. Yeah, this is the one. And I've been following through on this issue and adding, the more and more of the platforms it's beginning to affect. So it started affecting Tumbleweed. It started affecting FreeBSD and all sorts of other things. Now, the Tumbleweed one's a bit of an issue because the old package that we need to use for downgrading is going to disappear really soon. So if I go to this over here, no, I didn't want to go to it like that. Cancel. I don't know if I can get to it like this. Oh, that's going to be horrible. Oh, no, it's not too bad. What it is with the history over here in Tumbleweed, the old packages that they have that are still the versions we need. Actually, that is horrible. It's frozen my computer. Yeah, go on.
What is the difference in this 3.0 that breaks things?
Here, every version, anything that references things like, for example, where is it? Ginger variable pillar is undefined. And then you have, let's see the other examples. Where is it? I think
Pillar, salt, OPTS.
Yeah, opt, sol, all
the sort of
all the salt specific
variables are not available. So yes. Has there been any response from the core team about this?
I think this isn't going to hit until, this is only hitting the master branch, and it's hitting stable now on these bleeding edge platforms like Open, Tumbleweed and Arch Linux and those ones. But it's going to start hitting everyone, I think, by the next release of Salt. So it's going to start hitting everywhere soon, I reckon. Where these basic values aren't available, so we're having to downgrade in the meantime to keep things working. But the Tumbleweed history is going to disappear. And what the problem there is, what I'm asking is, where can we store this package? Because this is not going to be available soon. What ideas do we have? See, can you see this history over here? It only lasts for 25 days.
Dropbox.
Dropbox?
Yeah, something like that, Yeah, why not?
Yeah. It's just like set up a Dropbox for our org and just put anything we need in there that we need to rely on for the time being.
Yeah, well, why not?
Okay. Could be. Yeah, I didn't even think about Dropbox. I was thinking maybe there's something a bit more, well known, not well known in that sense.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I know what you mean. Is there something within
GitLab or GitHub, maybe,
GitLab,
where we can keep artifacts and stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Because this is going to run out soon. We're pointing out this version over here and give that.
Well, there's a way of storing files on GitHub or GitLab, isn't there?
So look at one of those two you're suggesting, yeah?
Yeah, seeing as we already have, accounts, the organization on that, then that would probably be, but, if we need to, we can use some cloud service if we really need to.
Yeah.
Something for free.
Yeah, something for free and just pull it from there instead. So even a Dropbox maybe if necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's really the thing, because these packages are going to start disappearing soon, and then we won't be able to even downgrade anymore. And so yeah, just having something, because even Noel was asking before, because there's some archive, there's some things that he's pulling from online, and he's saying for kitchen testing purposes, rather than keep having to upgrade formulas to the latest version in the testing side of things, can we just have somewhere like some sort of file host that we can just pull these files from, rather than doing this manually every single time, making these changes. So maybe, like you said, GitLab.
Yeah, and having that package, does it require some tightly version dependencies, or is it self-idempotent? Can it be used alone?
The actual package we're talking about, the old Ginger. At the moment, we're able to install the Ginger 2 package as it is, because it just installs with because all the other dependencies are available in Ginger, the version 3 version. It's already there. So when you downgrade to 2.11, it has everything it needs still at the moment, at least anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, okay then. So GitLab or Dropbox or something like that. Just have a look around for file hosts, yeah?
Yeah.
Okie dokie. All right, sorry about that, guys. That was a rush today, trying to catch through 5 weeks of changes and stuff. But I think we've covered a fair bit there, and we'll hopefully catch up in a couple of weeks.
Okay, cool,
Yeah.
guys.
Thank you very much. Thanks for setting that up.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay.